All right, we're back with Pete Akins, pastor of True Life Center, TLC, in Cedar
DLC.
City. They meet in the old skating rink.
Holy rollers.
Oh, holy rollers!
That's what we
I, I used to go skating in that place in the '80s. Who would have ever thought that the gaudy organ music would be replaced with worship music?
Right. Amen.
But Pete, last time we were talking about how you became a Christian and consistency issues, how God gave you consistency in a very erratic childhood, and you got saved in the office of a pastor of a Southern Baptist church. You know, Baptists know how to get people saved. There's no two ways around that.
Right.
But your spiritual journey has been more than on a single track. Fair statement.
True. Yeah.
Talk to us about your spiritual journey.
So, when I was a kid, right, we talked a little bit in the last segment about my parents, and my parents both loved Jesus. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my mom and stepdad serving the Lord, my dad and stepmom serving the Lord, both involved in ministry. Both are those couples that every pastor wants in their church.
Okay.
They're getting older now, so they're slowing down. But when we were young, we were always in church. Church was a priority at both homes. Interestingly enough, the Christian lifestyle was, how should we say, subject to opinion and circumstance and situation.
Okay.
So, church on Sunday, everybody loves Jesus. And at home, everybody loved Jesus too, but that didn't always play out. So, I had to learn very young that boy, this stuff's not as black and white. Theology is not black and white. I'm responsible for how I'm going to live for Jesus, not responsible for how you're going to live for Jesus. And that being the case, that it kind of my home life sort of mirrored my church life. So I get saved in the Southern Baptist Church, end up going back to LA, and attending church. Then we moved to Nevada and got involved in the Nazarene Church.
Oh, okay.
Moved back to California, and the parents I was living with for a brief period of time weren't going to church, but my sister and I were, committed to Awanas on Wednesday nights at a United Methodist Church, and then we got involved in that United Methodist Church, and then we move up to Oregon and get involved in a little community church, and then there's a little church plant that's Calvary Chapel church plant that became Roseburg Christian Fellowship. Which is where I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. Then we moved to Arizona and get involved in a Word of Faith church called the Living Church, interestingly enough, TLC.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And, we kind of, the couple years that I was in Arizona, we moved around from church to church and spent some time at a church called Grace Evangelical Lutheran Church. That had a traditional service in the morning, and then after that was a more contemporary service. So I did legitimately go through confirmation, got confirmed Lutheran at 15. So I'm saved Southern Baptist, confirmed Lutheran, got some Calvary Chapel background.
Okay, so you got water baptized, sprinkle baptized, spirit baptized, Chuck Smith baptized, and
I got my
sacramental baptized.
I can pick whatever I want for communion.
But it doesn't become, it goes along with.
Right, exactly. and so, it's interesting. Then I moved to the Bay Area and started attending an Assembly of God church, which led me to an Assembly of God Bible College, which I came out of that licensed assemblies, went to work at 2 different Assembly of God churches, and then got a hold of the Foursquare, which TLC, True Life Center, is Foursquare Church. And so now I pastor a Foursquare church. So I've about had it all. And here's what's important, Robert. I think to be clear, Jesus is in all of those.
Absolutely.
And all of those people love churches, love the Lord. And all of those pastors that I interface with, all of those leaders that I interface with, all are dealing with the same real struggles that we all are.
Right.
So thank God Jesus doesn't hold us to the standard that we hold each other to.
Right.
I mean, he knows that none of us are going to figure this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all kinds of different ways. And I'm not in any way saying all roads lead to Jesus,
Right.
but all Jesus
No.
roads lead to Jesus.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
And boy, there's a lot of brothers and sisters in various different Christian-based faith groups that, man, we're gonna spend eternity with. And you know what it's done for me is Cammie and I were laughing the other day because we're earning a reputation in Cedar City for just accepting anybody.
Oh,
And I was like,
okay.
how's that bad?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we actually don't have an entrance exam when somebody wants to come to church. You know? And anyway,
But you know, with streams, our statement has been, if you believe that Jesus is Lord and there's salvation in no one other than him, then I will work with you and pray for you to preach that message better than you've ever preached it before. And what we did was we tried to reduce it to what's the only thing that will still matter in 1,000 years.
Right.
How we got baptized, where we went to church, what songs we sang, on and on and on. Those are not going to matter.
Right.
But the only thing that will matter then is who is Jesus, what did he do, and how do we appropriate it for our lives?
Yeah, for sure. And interesting, in the last segment, we talked a little bit about the Christian Motorcycle Association.
Right.
And that's the stance they took as well. You know, I mean, hey, doesn't matter to us. You know, what flavor ice cream they eat, just to eat ice cream. So,
okay, so you had quite the varied experience. And when did you start? You know, let's talk for a minute about your music stuff, because that has been major in your life, still is. You play French horn for the symphony, the Southern Utah Orchestra, and very accomplished musician across a lot of different instruments. Pete's, I'll tell people this, Pete's attitude is that the worship leader should be skilled enough on every instrument in the worship band to be able to give practical instruction to everybody in the band of what they want. Right?
Well, there you go.
And Pete is. And also as a worship leader, your approach has been, I have spent hours every week preparing for this. Don't come up and serve it in practice, right? In preparation. One brother yesterday says, we were never allowed to call it practice. We called it preparation. Don't come up in preparation time with your recommendation of what needs to be done. Send it to me days prior. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Talk to us a little bit about your music background.
Well, so both of my moms were piano players, and so you know they would sit down and play piano. I had a piano in the house all the time. Interestingly enough, of the 11, I'm also the only musician.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but I just remember being fascinated as a young kid with music. And when I was 7 years old, I got accepted into the Pasadena Boys Choir that met in Pasadena City College.
Okay.
And that started some sort of vocal instruction. And I can still remember, you know, being a part of that. We just shortly after that, though, moved up to Oregon. So I had to leave that experience. Went to Oregon. I was singing in choir. I was a sixth grader. And my choir director pulled me aside one day after rehearsal. This is as an 11-year-old sixth grader. Mm-hmm. And his name was Larry Brown. And he said, you know, the Umpqua Community College in Roseburg is in Umpqua County, I believe.
I had Umpqua ice cream last night.
Umpqua ice cream, right. Exactly. And was doing a play called A Mall in the Night Visitors, which is sort of an operetta.
Okay.
That is absolutely a fabulous story. It's actually about a crippled boy and the three wise men on their way to Jesus stop in overnight at his house. And he gets healed and sends his crutch with the kings as a gift. And fascinating. And the music is outstanding. Okay. But the lead role is a boy soprano. The problem with that is most boys can't sing that high, as it goes all the way up to a high A, in a female soprano voice.
Oh.
And if they can sing that high, they probably don't have the presence to be able to carry the lead role. So it's usually sung by a young-looking 15, 16, 17-year-old girl that they make into a boy.
Okay.
But they were holding auditions, and he told me he thought I should go audition. Well, we didn't have any money. We lived 20 miles out of town, driving an old 1972 Ford van that got maybe 5 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
Of course, gas back then was a little cheaper than it is now, even with the recession and everything going down. I mean, anyways, so I begged my mom to take me to this audition, and she took me to the audition. Long story short, I got the part, was cast in that role. And that was sort of probably the first real life-affirming experience I had working with some professional level musicians. And they really took me under their wing and taught me some things. And I had started playing trumpet in the 6th grade.
Okay.
And then when I got to the 7th grade, my band director, his name was Wendell Ellefson, he thought maybe, hey, you know what, this kid's got an ear. He can hear pitch. Got the makings to become a strong musician. Maybe you should play French horn. So he got me started on the French horn, which I just quickly fell in love with. Went to high school and played French horn. We moved to Arizona, played French horn a couple years there, then moved back to California and played French horn there. Ended up going to college playing French horn. And when I went later years in high school and then into college, I kind of gave up the vocal stuff and really put my eggs, so to speak, in the French horn basket or the French horn, and really became passionate about learning and understanding the French horn, because I felt like it was a very, very underrepresented musical instrument that people didn't understand its play in the role of music. It's actually real fascinating. It's the bridge between winds and brass. It's the first melodic brass instrument because it has the ability to play melodies without valves. And anyway, history aside, I just kind of gave everything to being a French horn player. And I went to school to be a high school band director. That's why I went to college. I wanted to be a high school band director. But I did in college get accepted into a vocal ensemble and traveled around from church to church to church to church for five years.
Okay.
And boy, we'd go to church. Robert, and our music was good. It was early 90s contemporary Christian worship music, as well as radio music and a lot of gospel stuff, and totally auditioned, extremely well rehearsed. Music was good. And we go to churches, didn't look like anybody was having a good time. So I remember telling the Lord somewhere along in that process that, well, heck, if I went into ministry, at least I'd make church fun for somebody. So around my junior year in college, I decided that I still wanted to be a high school band director. So I wanted to finish my music pursuits, but I did want to open the door in case the Lord wanted to call me into ministry. So I made that decision my junior year and ended up taking 2 more years in college. So I was in Bible college for 6 years. And I completed my music education degree as well as a pastoral ministries degree, which gave me sort of an emeritus church music degree. So in 6 years, I completed the equivalent of 3 Bachelor of Arts degrees, but then got hired right out of Bible college to be a music pastor. That's how I met Cammie. Her dad.
You got hired. Yeah, you were hired at a church where the pastor's daughter.
That's right. Was my age.
Yeah. Let's talk about that next time. You had quite the background. How has music helped you, been a part of, ministered to and through you in your church experience? How has God used music in your walk with Him?
Well, I think that God's used music very much in the same way with just about everybody, because it's the one thing that we're doing here that we're going to do there.
Okay.
I mean, worship is going to continue. Right. How that looks, we don't know, but we do know that there's music in heaven. Because we know that was actually, interestingly enough, Lucifer's primary responsibility. So, the cliche that Satan fell from heaven into the choir loft.
Landed in the choir loft. Yeah.
It may or may not be far off. But
So
anyway,
we got rid of choirs, and then he landed in the sound booth.
right, exactly. But, for me personally, music, interestingly enough, is sort of an internal expression. I don't interestingly listen to music much. If you ask me, hey, have you heard this song? It's likely I haven't, other than
Yeah.
John Denver. Because music for me is more of a mental exercise. When I hear it, I can't turn off who's playing that, what's happening there. So you mentioned it. I don't talk much of it. I am a guitar player, traveled as a drummer. I'm a bass player, keyboard player, play multiple, brass instruments, trumpet player, French horn player. French horn's really the only thing that I would, take money and say that I could play at a professional level. But, I do play all of those things, but it was very academic for me and always has been. It was more of a challenge and exercise. I love to practice. I love to really get to the heart of what makes music work. But an interesting thing for me is there was growing up, you can't help but really be gratified when people compliment you.
Yeah.
If what you're doing ministers to people or entertains people and they come and express their gratitude, well, that's really flattering, right? So I did have to work through some of that. And I can remember going through some pretty tough ministry stuff where I just kind of, again, like when I was 15, had it out with God. There was another time where, I was in my mid-20s and I just told the Lord, if I never play music for people again, I'm totally okay with that, as long as you want to hear it.
Oh, cool. That's good.
If it's just you and me and a guitar, then that's enough for me.
That's
And
cool.
that happened before we moved to Cedar City. One of the reasons I think that the music side of things has grown in Cedar City is because we're sort of on the other side of that journey. And by the way, I don't think that stuff's sin. To have to deal with just being human and work through how does the human side of things meet the spiritual ideal. That's just all part of the process, Robert. That's not stuff we need to get forgiven of or
Right.
ask. It's just part of being who we are.
Right. Sure.
Did I answer your question or kind of talk?
Yeah. No, that's cool. No, that's good. Let's talk on our next session about meeting a certain someone and how God moved you into
I like talking about that.
All right, good deal. We'll talk about that in a little bit.